everybody, and good Tuesday evening to you. It is 21 News Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm here with weather for Weather Geeks. Pretty quiet night weather-wise out there, and not much is going to happen over the next couple of days, and then some real December weather heading our way by the weekend. Before we get started tonight, all of us here at 21 WFMJ, including all of us in the weather department, want to pass along our condolences to the family of Dr. Dave Walker, former meteorologist here at 21 WFMJ back in the early 2000s. He recently retired from WTRF down in the Wheeling area, and unfortunately, Dr. Dave did recently this week pass away not long after his retirement. I know a lot of longtime 21 WFMJ viewers remember Dr. Dave from his time here, I believe from 2000 to 2003. So some sad news in the weather world today. Moving on and talking about some other weather news this evening. This week is the week that we're going to see a consolidation of some products from the National Weather Service. The Weather Service issues way too many products, and it gets confusing to the general public. And so there's been a push in recent years to consolidate some of these products where it's appropriate. And one area they found they could do some consolidation is in flood products. And so flash flood watches and flood watches are being consolidated into just flood watches now. So flash flood watches are going away except in really extraordinary circumstances such as dam breaks and things like that. But for our area, the kind of generic flash flood watch is going to go away and just become a regular flood watch. Some of the other fairly minor products here are kind of being consolidated into just a flood advisory, including urban small stream flood advisory, small stream flood advisory, hydraulic advisory, all things that usually aren't issued for our area, but nonetheless, all that's being consolidated into a flood advisory, and flash flood watches and flood watches are all just going to fall under the umbrella of flood watches from here on forward. All right, it was a nice warm day today compared to the average, but nothing compared to last year. We had record heat on today's date. Last year it was 76. That is, of course, way above average, about 24 degrees above average, the high temperature last year on today's date. We made it into the middle and upper 60s today. Pretty similar territory to where we were yesterday, and this makes 3 days in a row with above average temperatures after a long stretch. The first 6 days of the month were all well below average, with temperatures mostly in the 40s during the first handful of days of November. All right, we had a fair amount of sunshine this morning. High clouds started to encroach this afternoon, and these have thickened. This evening, I'm going to pop up the radar here to show you there's just not a lot on the radar here locally, and there probably won't be over the next handful of hours. Showers most likely will be up towards Toronto and Buffalo. And around here, a 10% chance of sprinkle overnight. That'll about do it. Actually, tomorrow's going to turn out to be a pretty nice day once again in the wake of this first weak front. The day probably starts with some clouds, maybe some patches of fog, especially, I'll say, from Route 224 on south. But everywhere across our area, I think we see a fair amount of sunshine for the afternoon. While it won't be as warm as yesterday and today, still approaching 60 here in the first half of November. We'll take that any time. Some changes, though, as we head towards the end of the week. Now, Thursday is going to be the last really warm day for some time. I think we'll get well up into the 60s Thursday, maybe even flirting with 70 in some spots if we get enough holes in kind of a high layer of cloudiness. We've got a chance of getting real mild on Thursday. Also, a gusty breeze will develop on Thursday, and I do think we stay dry through the daylight hours. Now, these showers will push in well after sunset. Of course, sunset's not long after 5 at this time of the year, but about 9, 10, 11 o'clock Thursday evening, gusty line of showers will push through. Probably no thunder with this, but these could bring down some fairly significant wind gusts in the kind of stronger segments of this line. And then in the wake of this front, there's not much cool air just yet, and this is actually going to be a fairly sunny day Friday, but a gusty breeze will continue. The atmosphere will be well mixed on Friday, so we'll be able to grab some of that wind energy from aloft and bring it down to the surface. So, yeah, some gusts of maybe 30 to 35 will be a possibility on Friday. Otherwise, mild for one more day. We'll make it into the 50s, but then the cold air arrives for the weekend. By the weekend, high temperatures will be 10 or 11 degrees cooler than average, and our averages, of course, are pretty chilly at this time of the year, so we're expecting not much better than 40 to 42 over the course of the weekend, and the weekend forecast does include chances to see some snowflakes. Don't think it's going to be anything significant on Saturday. A couple of rain, wet snow showers here and there. Maybe, just maybe, we see some conversational snow and maybe some minor accumulations with a little clipper system that comes through Sunday night. That's speculation at this point, but something we'll be watching. And also something worth watching early next week with this kind of cold air with the warm, relatively speaking, Great Lakes. If things align just right, we might have to watch our lake effect prone areas for some lake effect snow showers early next week. This is a pretty impressive trough of low pressure digging into the Great Lakes by the weekend and early next week. And it's going to be here for a good 4 or 5 days before finally starting to lift out into New England by about the 16th. So that would be, what would that be, a week from today? It'll start to lift out, and then we'll see temperatures start to recover some as this trough moves away and some of this milder air, somewhat milder air, tries to push in during the second half of next week. Here's our medium-range model spread for snow accumulations for the next 7 days. Notice the lines start bending upwards here by days 5, 6, and 7 on some of our models. At this point, I'm not expecting any sort of accumulation of significance, but we're going to have to watch our lake effect areas, and certainly a lot of us are going to see our first snowflakes flying so far this season by the weekend and early on next week. And I mentioned this on Weather Geeks last evening. The weather pattern overall does look pretty chilly compared to average for the rest of November, heading into a good chunk of December. Not to say every day is going to be really cold, but the pattern overall is going to favor cooler than average temperatures, it looks like, for a large portion of the second half of November and probably a good chunk of December. That's part of our winter forecast, a fast start to winter this season. Thanks for watching tonight's Weather for Weather Geeks. I'll see you right back here on Wednesday.